Calling the meeting to order at 1 p.m. We have no citizens here other than board members. Do you have anything to say?
Nope. We
No?
can move
We
on.
can move along. No hearing of citizens. Tax delinquency information. Oh, I forgot to put that on my PowerPoint. Sorry about that. Tax delinquency information. I think this is what we went over in our meeting.
Yeah.
This is pretty much just a duplicate for both of you. Neil wasn't in that meeting, but we went over the tax delinquency information and the collections from MBM, and how that all pans out and how some of the tax delinquency is uncollectible based on empty lots and so forth, people that have passed away, dilapidated housing. We do have a handful of those properties in the district. Do you have any questions on that? We had already reviewed that in our previous get together. Okay. For the budget update, I had 4 administrative budget meetings this week with the administrators. I have 2 set up for tomorrow. Neil and I will meet probably by the end of the month to go over the superintendent's budget and curriculum budget and what the cycle is for next year. That budget amount normally is between about $175,000 and $200,000 for curriculum. That's on is it on a 4 or 5 year cycle, Dr. English?
Or my phone.
Okay, I have Erin here, guys. I'm gonna try to get her on.
Oh, good.
And that's, Sheila, that's for cycling textbooks.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I guess just from a high level, and I think we'll get into this later maybe, but in terms of the trajectory of the budget,
Mhm.
and growth of expenditures, like what's it looking like prior year to current year?
We don't really raise our supplies budget
Okay,
by really anything. We did a small increase last year because we were afraid of tariffs,
yeah,
especially in the electronics.
yeah,
Not knowing what kind of tariffs were going to stick. I think anything that we purchased this current year that had a tariff tacked on, we're not going to see a refund. You see countries coming after
yeah,
the man at the top and asking for a refund. That's not going to happen.
No.
But I did have to be proactive in increasing some line items last year, especially in the technology line
Yeah.
items. I think as a whole, supplies are going up. We're paying more for things, not just groceries, not just gas, but we're paying more for everything.
Yeah.
So there will be a slight increase as well as contractual obligations. Those supplies are still the smallest part of our budget.
yeah, and electronics are gonna go up even further with the scarcity of RAM, and
Yeah,
laptops are gonna get more expensive.
yeah.
I'm also thinking, so we already know that healthcare is gonna increase.
I'm gonna
right?
get there on that.
Okay.
I have 10 pages and we're on number 2.
Okay,
It's not a long meeting, but it does give touch points.
yeah,
My job is to give you information. Oh, good.
Erin, yeah.
Historically, these meetings are information for the finance committee, who last year was my finance committee was Mr. Hawk and Wendy Wilton. And Wendy doubled as the president of the board. So I would explain things to them, give them that information. Therefore, when you get to the meeting as finance committee members, people will ask you questions. So my job is to give you the information, to have the answers. So Erin, we had gone over some tax delinquency information. As you know, I met with Miss Metzger and Mr. Kennard a week or so ago, and just to do a touch point for the finance committee. Tax delinquency information, we were talking about the amounts that are turned over to MBM monthly or annually, and what's collectible and what isn't, based on, you know, maybe a property that someone passed away and their family didn't want it and they didn't really care, and it's kind of sitting in a state of disarray and no one's living there, or it's an empty lot that, you know, a neighbor's using, a house might have been torn down and it's empty, and, you know, there's really no reason, there's really no push for taxes to be paid on the property because no one lives there. So we had reviewed this in a previous meeting, based on what was collectible and what wasn't. And the information that was shared from Jen Source that she sends out annually.
Can we rewind just a little bit? Mr. Kennard, what was your question about the supply budget? Sorry, I was getting here going here.
We're gonna go through it apparently, so.
Okay. Great.
What the highlight was in terms of what Sheila thought the increase in expenditures from last year, this year's budget would be.
Got it.
So my letter that goes out to administration is, if you have an increase in a line item, I need a detail on why you need that. My request to them has been a kind of a broken record. If you have to increase somewhere else, reduce somewhere else.
Yeah.
To make your supply budget no more than what you had previous years, unless you have a very good reason for it.
A funds is a fungible approach, so.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also want to say, just, you know, because I've been here longer than Sheila, that the supply budgets in the buildings haven't gone up for a lot. I mean, in terms of the budget, we are about as lean as you can possibly be in terms of supplies, you know, building related expenses, even staff, you know, because we have staff that are doing a bunch of different things. So, you know, the idea certainly up to this point, certainly in my time as the superintendent, is a very, you know, I think Sheila would agree that it's a very conservative approach to finances. You know, we've added very few things over the last few years, and the things that we've added have been sort of non-negotiables, like the special ed director, which, you know, ended up, you know, we felt like that's saving us costs and, you know, future litigation. So it pays for itself. Or we've made a change, like with the tech department, where we added tech, and when we've outsourced part of it to save money, or we outsourced payroll in order to save money to create space to get, you know, our 11th custodian. So we're always looking for the balance. You know, if we add something, we look on, you know, where are we getting the money in another place. So that's a little context for you. Then that goes way back before Sheila as well.
So as I stated, my administrative budget meetings, I had 4 yesterday. I have 2 tomorrow. Neil and I will meet probably by the end of the month to go over his items of the budget. So that's an ongoing meetings in progress. This was the basic ed and special ed funding. Governor Shapiro proposed a $50 million increase for the line items in the state budget. There's I'm going to go back and forth on this next slide. This is the fun little calculation for the SEF and the formula. I have a massive spreadsheet that.
Ms. Luber, what is the SEF and VEF? What is that?
Aren't you off today?
What does that mean?
Special ed funding and basic ed funding.
Thank you. Sorry.
So these are the calculations that change. The state is trying hard to find a fair way to distribute funds across the state of Pennsylvania. They take into poverty levels, they take into median housing cost. They do district weighted ADMs, that's average daily membership. And they take in cost of living. So all of this calculation to us means less than $50,000.
It's very similar to how they calculate our AIU.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So this was the preliminary funding from the state for basic ed and special ed. Not a lot of money. Won't even get you half a teacher. That's the sad thing.
Way less than half.
Yeah, way less than half a teacher. And to be fair, 50 million is not a lot of money. But he's proposing different appropriations. So he's trying to do different things, solar for schools, the facilities grant, school safety, early intervention. So and this proposed increase for PlanCon. PlanCon is, it's a subsidy reimbursement that years ago, there was a moratorium placed on it, and they said it would only be a few years, and we haven't seen it for probably, I want to say they stopped giving PlanCon subsidy out in around
Right.
2007. Was it 2007?
Yeah.
It was, so when a district decided that it needed to do construction, you would apply your poverty levels to the PlanCon application, and they would give you a subsidy back for your buildings. Now, we do have a couple of bond issues that I'm still getting a small amount on, but our district doesn't have a high level of poverty as a whole.
Right.
So we don't get a large amount, we get some amount of our bond payments that we make annually. And you see that in the revenue line item. You'll see that when I do the budget presentation. That is a calculated, set in stone amount based on what our payments are due for our bond issues. But they keep saying it's coming back or it's increasing, and it's not going to happen. If it happens before I retire, I will be shocked.
Yeah, it's important to understand that the proposed budget, and then after negotiations, the end final budget, which unfortunately occurs after our budget needs to be passed.
Right.
Those two budgets are very different. PlanCon has been on the docket for a number of years, and that typically is something that sort of is sliced off, first. So we're hoping for all of these things, but
and he came right out of the gate stating he wanted more money for education, but clearly that's not, that is not just here where we'd like to see it, but it's in other areas that we might not be eligible for.
Yeah.
Also remember this, we have about, just for context, we have about a third of our families are under the poverty level. So we're in the low 30s, okay? A few years ago, especially after the litigation came through at the state level, they are now like sort of fair funding schools. So these calculations funnel through a funding mechanism that is steeped towards schools with poverty, and I agree with that. So in order for him to make that work, he had to put enough money into the budget to where the schools, say that all the schools across the state are getting a special ed amount of money and a basic ed amount of money. And so after that fair funding model, that new algorithm was put in place, you have to put enough money into the system to where all of the schools that were used to that money coming in were held harmless, and all additional monies on top run through that new funding mechanism where, schools like Reading, schools like, Pittsburgh Public, or, a lot of these schools that really heavily rely on it then get a larger chunk of those funds. So that is one, I think, major accomplishment that has occurred at the state over the last, you know, 5 to 8 years is sort of changing the way it's funding. It's definitely much more fair, and it's steep towards schools that need it. But like I said, I'll go back to a minute ago. You know, what you end up getting and what is proposed at the beginning of the year is so different. So this is just sort of like a entry level. This is what we would like. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
So the only adjustment that you'll see in basic ed and special ed is me taking the 25-26 numbers and
Moving them
reflecting
forward.
what we've received
Yeah.
in the 26-27. I will not adjust anything other than what we're receiving this year.
Okay.
And that's another something for that I want to say. Yeah, it's really hard, and Sheila's going to show you some numbers where in terms of our budgeting, she came to like $100,000 in terms of expenditures and revenues. That's tight. She did a good job last year. That being said, there's a lot of things that you budget for that you don't really have control over because they either occur after the budget passes or are based on interest rates and other things that you're not really sure of. So there's definitely some kind of frustrating question marks, probably to somebody. I know that you do this for a living, Chris, but that there's a frustrating part where it's just like you go in, you do your best, you as a board you make a really good decision based on the information you have, and then after you pass the budget, things change. So that's part of the gig, unfortunately. But we do our best to try to get our predictions and as tight as we can. Sorry, Sheila.
That's okay.
I'm being annoying. I'm gonna stop talking for a little bit. Okay. Keep going.
So here, this is just information that I provide annually, and these are our assessed values that come in from the county. I receive a county assessed value official letter in January, and I'll receive the final numbers in May. So you'll see that, and we discussed this at our previous meeting, as you recall, that the COVID bump, and that I think this had a lot to do. This was when a lot of the building was going on down at Edgewater.
Yeah.
So there's our increase from an assessed value. Now it kind of leveled off a little bit. It went down, it went up a little, it went down a little, and it seems, I mean, I know that there's still building down there. There's still, there's still some, like, I see there's building going on up on 11th Street. There's a new addition. So, and obviously the beautiful building that's down at the corner of Allegheny and Holton, that's clearly going to raise your assessed values. But I put this little snippet in here. Several years ago, our CLR was almost 83%. Actually, it was 86.7.
I remember. I bought my house.
Okay, so it was 86.7. And then, last year it went to 52.7. And this year is going to be 50.14. So if you buy a $300,000 house, we're only collecting taxes on 150.
Yep.
A little over 150 because of that 0.14. But so as the CLR decreases, the assessed value of properties decline. We're in a good position where our assessed values are still holding steady and going up a little bit. But if they would stop at status quo, we would start to lose money on our tax base. So unless millage rates are adjusted, the decrease will reduce real estate tax revenue in the district.
Thanks for explaining that, Sheila.
I'm sorry?
Thanks for explaining that.
No problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna move you guys down.
Oh.
I'm gonna reduce you. How's that? I don't know how to make you smaller.
You could do the little line. Yep.
Okay, good. So these are tax millage rates and values. These are our neighbors. And I just wanted to go over again, this value of a mill. We are right in the mix with our neighbors on millage, but we are not right in the mix with the value of a mill. you know, if I would love to have that 22 mills of Fox Chapels at 4.1 a mill. We wouldn't raise taxes for years, but even Fox Chapel's raising, you know, that half a mil is bringing them $2 million. Our half a mil, little more than half a mil is bringing us, you know, $400,000-500,000. So I always bring this to everyone's attention to show that, you know, all mills are not created equally.
Yeah, the rest of the schools on there are significantly bigger than ours.
Yes, Allegheny
Well,
Valley,
yeah,
Allegheny Valley,
and
really
they're
not,
just
but,
close, this is close to ours.
right, they're our neighbor.
Yeah.
Um,
But you look at Plum, Penn Hills,
Right.
Hampton, Shaler, Gateway, Fox Chapel, those are all AAA, Quad A.
and I think, if you recall, I said this in our last meeting, I worked at a school district that just prided itself in knowing it was the smallest millage of all of their neighbors. But they were the small school and they were bringing in a smaller value of a mill. And I'm like, that's really not helping. It's not an equal, it's not one for one.
No,
So I had to educate, on value of a mill. So this was a spreadsheet that I've used for years.
And I think a lot, they compare us to other places, but I think it's really hard to compare districts because, you know, the houses are different, the way the homes are sort of situated on, you know, within the confines of the municipality of the borough are different. There's different levels of business, you know, so there's corporate taxes and all sorts of other things. So it's really hard to.
Right.
I think that a lot of people do that. It's just like, well, why aren't we? Because it's like when somebody argues, you know, why don't we do things like China or, you know, these other countries? Just because we're not that. We have our own, you know, we have our own system, our own economy, our own way of doing things, our own historical context, and I think millage rates are similar in that regard. Also, I think I want to say something else. I think a lot of people wonder about the revenue that we bring in from taxes, you know, or from homes or what people are paying. And I think people wonder why. They always ask, well, why, you know, what about the houses down that they're building down in Edgewater and all these other things? And they come onto the tax rolls as they're built. But it's even understanding. I think what people need to understand is the money coming in is the money coming in. It doesn't come in some circuitous way. Whatever it is, it is. Like we don't have control over the taxes coming in. The only thing we control is when, you know, when a property has changed hands, we can reassess, which every school district does. That's the only thing under our control. We don't control the amount of money coming in. So I always tell people it doesn't matter why or where or what. I mean, we can explain those things to people that'll make them feel more comfortable, but it doesn't change the revenue. The revenue coming in is the revenue coming in. I think that's an important distinction to understand.
yep,
On this slide, please ignore the 2.23%. I updated and I forgot to take that out. That was from last year's calculation and I adjusted all these numbers. But this is the Act 1 index of 3.5% and what a millage increase means to a homeowner. Our max increase in millage this year is 0.8925. I've given examples here of if we increase millage, half a mil, if we increase it to the full amount, and how much that increase means to a homeowner. I always like to show that, you know, what is $50? Is it, you know, it's not a lot of money, but it does add on to our tax base.
Value is a relative term. You know, you have older folks that are on a fixed income where that, you know, that amount of money has a different meaning to different groups of people.
Right.
But I think this is a good thing always to look at, you know, in terms of like what is the actual change in dollars.
Right. these are some of our key assumptions for 26-27. Our property assessments are holding steady, but the CLR continues to decline. In 2022, 86.2, I couldn't remember what year it was, but you can see it's declined significantly over the last few years. We currently have 2 REA retirements, and we're finalizing an ERI for REA this week. Well, I'll say that 5 times real fast. The Peasers is level. They've gone from 33.4 up to 33.9. Now it's going to be 33.59 for 26-27.
There was a line item in the budget earlier about increasing that funding though.
Yes, yeah, but again, that's a proposal.
That's a proposal,
So
you're not
until they
Past that.
yeah.
Okay.
Our healthcare increase came in from ASHIC, which is our Allegheny County Schools Health Insurance Consortium. Our increase on healthcare is 8.3, dental increase is 3%, and they let vision go for a year. We obviously have contractual obligations with increases with RESPA and REA. We also have contracts in place with, maintenance for our HVAC. We have contractual obligations for softwares, the software that we utilize in curriculum and classrooms, software that I use in the business office.
Yeah.
We have a transportation RFP in process. I forgot to put what the bid opening was. I have that in my paperwork, but I'm waiting for Falco to get back to me so we can put that on the website. That did go into the paper yesterday. As Mr. Kennard and I were just discussing, supply costs continue to increase. We try and maintain status quo for what we have in those line items, but you have more kids at this, I think, at this building than you've had since I've known where Riverview was.
Yeah.
So your supply costs, they're going up, just like everything else, groceries, eggs, gas, the whole gamut. So your supply costs, I've asked the administrators to, be fiscally responsible. If you need something, list why exactly you might need $1,200 more for XYZ. If there are increases, they will be small increases. Last but not least, the 24-25 audit update. We were a little delayed this year with the auditors coming in. They finally got back to me with numbers. Now, it's as Neil stated earlier, you try to do, and when I build a budget, I try to get as close as possible to what I believe revenues and expenditures will be. I'm gonna pull everybody back up.
It should be down at the bottom. Like if you go all the way. We're not there. There.
There. Okay. So, lost him again, that's all right. So as Neil stated earlier, we had expenditures last year of $26,935,000. We spent $26,823,822. We had a difference of funding left over of $111,178.
So extremely close.
So very close. However,
That's
our
tight,
revenues.
you guys. That's tight.
Tight. I work hard on salaries and benefits and try not to put a lot of cushion in, but allow for the needs of the district. I never want to be the person that's like, no, but when we need something, we obviously need something. On the other side of the equation, I try to be fiscally responsible in budgeting for our revenues. We picked it out of the park this year in revenues.
Okay.
It's a good problem to have, but it also puts the board into a situation where people will come to you and say, well, you have money left from last year. Use that to balance the budget.
No.
Use that to balance the budget. And I've worked in districts that did that every single year, and they never had a fund balance, and they were never able to do the things that they truly needed to do with their infrastructure.
Well, and that's the thing, we have such a big project coming up with the junior, senior high school.
Right.
That and the cost of borrowing right now
Right.
is astronomical.
So what we have left over from the 24-25 budget will pay for the cafeteria.
That's amazing.
We had real estate. Now I will share, I didn't want to put it in the,
Yes.
in the PowerPoint that's going on the website,
Mhm.
because I didn't want it to end up in the Trib, to be quite fair. But our real estate taxes from last year, we collected almost $397,000 more than budgeted, but we refunded over $418,000. So we were pretty close
Okay,
to collecting, and that was based, I believe, I'll have to look back at the AFR. I calculate at like a 97.6% collection rate. This district is incredible at paying their taxes. Now, that could be just because everyone has an escrow account, which I love having my escrow account. I don't have to worry about it. It could also mean that you have responsible taxpayers, which I like to think that it's a little of both.
what was driving the large amount of refunds?
The large amount of refunds from last year, the majority of that was the Ann Street property. It was a commercial property that
Okay.
we refunded over $300,000. The others, you can go back up to, I think, 3 years on real estate appeals. So if you appeal something, they can go back to prior years. So that
So,
is,
Sorry, Sheila,
Yes.
why don't you give him an overview?
the
This,
overview.
the-
The overview.
first of all,
is-
listen,
Oh.
this is a
Oh,
good,
I'm very familiar with the Ann Street property, so.
no, I mean, not
The-
the Ann Street
okay,
property.
so
I'm talking
The
about,
budget.
yeah, generally speaking, we
I will
we
tell
were
you-
tight in terms of money coming in and spending. There's some other, there are some other confounding
I'm gonna go down
factors
the
that
list,
allowed for
so
more
that's
money to
okay.
come into the district. Sheila will kind of give you an overview of that, and then we can kind of talk about, what happens with that and where it goes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sheila, I
So-
also had a question. If you do have any of the data, I was wondering about revenue in terms of grants, if there was a summary on that or a plan for the next fiscal year as well.
So any revenues for grants that are questionable, I don't put that in the revenue line item. And if it comes in, we also expend it. So, we're required to, our fiscal year runs July 1 to June 31st, or June 30th. So when we receive a grant, I do everything in my power to spend those funds in the year that we receive them. So that's a wash.
Yeah, so it nets out. 'Cause-
Well,
'cause typically those
however,
grants-
Adeshua, for 2 years now, we have placed every grant summary on the front page of our website. So I think last year we brought in a little over $400,000 total in grants, and it's typically around that amount every year. But you can kind of go in over the last 2-3 years right on the front page of the website, and you can see every grant that's coming in. Some of the grants are sort of annual, where you have your safety and security grant. It's different amounts of money each year, but we typically get that. But you don't want to, like Sheila said, you don't want to budget for that because it could go away based on that budget from Shapiro. There's so many factors that can make it go away. So and also, like she said, it's a zero-sum game. The money coming in is the money
Is that
expended.
currently posted on the website or?
Yeah, it's on the front page. Right on the front page are all the grants that we received in the last couple of years. I think there were some board members a couple of years ago that wanted to see those more clearly. So ever since that point in time, we've posted everything so that the public can see the, you know, the money coming in through grants.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a list of items that we were over budget in our revenues.
Okay.
Current real estate, current earned income tax, real estate transfer tax, which is based on the sales in the district. That's a moving target.
Yeah.
You don't know
You know
who's
what's gonna
gonna
sell.
Yeah, you estimate based on the previous year, and then if you kick it out of the park, you kick it out of the park. Our delinquent tax collectors have done an incredible job, and my concern about increasing those line items annually is low hanging fruit. You know, you get those numbers turned over annually,
And then you get to the top.
and then
ones.
you get the ones at the top, and then it stops. So my fear is if I increase this to, you know, I had delinquent real estate budgeted at 400,000, we brought in almost 750. So that's not a guarantee every year. Delinquent earned income tax, I had 250,000 budgeted, we brought in 375. So your interest, last year, we were looking at interest rates that were starting to tank. They were going from, it was at 5.78, and by the time the budget was about to be passed, it was down to 4.17. My fear was that they were gonna go, you know, we had just gotten a new president. Nobody knew what was happening. I had a fear of interest rates going through the cement floor. And I budgeted at almost $323,000, and we brought in $994,000 in interest because we do have a significant capital reserve fund balance. And a couple years ago, I negotiated to have Dollar Bank, if they wanted our business, to provide us the same rate that we were receiving in our municipal banking accounts. So we have that guarantee for another year, those rates. Miscellaneous income. We had a cyber incident in 23-24 that we paid a significant amount of money out. We received insurance funds, and I had that, and I let our auditors know that that was placed into the miscellaneous income. So we normally only put about $10,000 in miscellaneous income. We have like MER record payments that the state pays for like special ed kids and things like that. Small dollar amounts of money, like truancy fees, things like that. $10,000 normally doesn't get hit in a decent year. We received those insurance funds back. So we went over revenues there by $630,000 because we paid a ton of money for that cyber incident. Our PDE subsidies, as you know, I maintain them at the previous years. We also were approved last year for that charter subsidy. We received about $30,000 in charter subsidy. So based on the BEF, SEF, and the charter school subsidy, we received $150,000 more in charter and in subsidies from the state.
And that charter money, that's ongoing into the future.
If it's placed in his budget,
Yeah.
you know, I hope it
Yes.
stays, but there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like Plan Con, just like, you know, him wanting $50 million back into BEF and SEF. This is his proposal. They, when they go behind doors and start negotiating, who knows? It's like, in my office, it's like throwing revenues up against the wall and seeing what sticks. So that combined with the expenditures that we didn't spend was $2.8 million. Now, I still have outstanding bills this current year.
Yeah.
For the molding situation down at the high school of about $200,000 that we're still fighting with our insurance companies, not our brokers, our insurance company, because they're stating it was an electrical issue when it wasn't. We're still trying to tell them that we had a malfunction of a unit and that's why it happened. We also have these funds that I'm grateful for that will cover that 1.5 million cafeteria renovations. So with that said, you know, take the 2.8 minus out the 1.5 minus out the 200 or,
Well, the cafeteria was gonna be
Capital.
Cafeteria was earmarked. So, okay,
Right, it
so
was earmarked.
let me
So
give
that
sort
was
of
gonna
an,
be up to 2.1 with everything, wasn't it?
Actually, it was, I just took the numbers off today and it was like 1.47, but we obviously put in a little bit of padding for change orders.
I thought to put in the garage doors, to redo the floor, and then we were rolling the windows at Verner into that, but that was gonna be
Not
offset.
guaranteed, right? That's
Yeah.
not a guarantee, that's that facilities
Mhm.
grant application that I'm working on.
yeah,
But
we may
about
be able to
altogether-
offset those costs.
Yeah, I thought altogether that was gonna be close to
2 million,
2
Yeah.
million, 2.1, something like that.
correct.
Okay, I pulled up, I thought I pulled
For
it.
all of that, that's what we discussed, I think,
Okay.
a couple weeks ago, okay. Okay,
I might be
Generally
wrong.
speaking, let me give an overview.
we're still
We
in great
have-
shape though.
If, say we X out, that project, it's going to add, we have a current capital reserves of somewhere like mid-5 to upper $5 million. That is a healthy capital reserve. I think there are some people that think that's too much. Our auditor doesn't believe that. We have built the capital reserve since I've been the superintendent steadily to make sure that we're in a healthy position. Now, with this overage, that the board can decide what they want to do with that. The money will go back into capital reserves that will pay for, that won't minus the cafeteria project from our capital reserves. So it's going to remain somewhere around 6 million after the cafeteria is done. Now, you had mentioned, Mr. Kennard, possible upgrades to the junior senior high school. If the board chooses to do that, you have some seed money where you could put a down payment on a loan to sort of take care of those things, or offset the costs of a bond if you wanted to. If not, those monies will go into our 5-year capital improvement plan, and we will move forward from there. There was discussion last year about taking money from that capital reserve and offsetting the cost of taxes. Here's the issue with that, okay? If your main budget each year in terms of expenditures and revenues don't match, so say that you take we brought 2 teachers, right? First of all, the teachers with the early retirement would, option that we're putting into place. Once again, we talked earlier in the meeting that those are going to be fungible now because we've liquidated some of our, or we've opened up some of our revenues coming in. So that's going to offset those costs. But say that, whatever, you take $250,000, you put it towards the supply cost increases and the amount the budget's going up. You could do that and it'll pull from those capital reserves. The problem is next year, that $200,000, that difference is going to be 300, 400, because the costs are going to go up. So if you're not balanced and you're here, you could take some money to bring you here, but it still doesn't change the fact that your operational costs and the money coming in are different. And the key ingredient is that we, or myself and Sheila, don't want to widen that gap. Where schools get into trouble is where that gap widens. Then the next year, the difference still remains, but it's going to be more. So it's 300, 400. And once you get to the point where you can't tax your, sorry.
Then you're exhausting your capital reserves and then you're gonna set yourself up for
Well,
a shock.
once you
When
get to the
something breaks,
point,
it's
Chris,
different.
where you can't tax your way out of it,
Yep.
you're in deep trouble. You have a situation then where you have to, the only way to make up that money if you can't tax is to dip into the main part of the money coming in, or the main part of our expenditures are staff.
Yep.
Right? So the only place to go, since it's so tight on our supply budget, are programs. And I don't know if that's what happened 10 years ago with all the cuts that we made, but we made deep cuts into the staff, 10 years ago, because that chasm was there, and the only way to make it up is to cut programs to get those like personnel costs back up to get us back to neutral. So those concepts I want you to kind of keep in mind. That's a really important thing to consider.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, Chris. I know that you do this for a living, so I don't want to like, you know.
Yeah, no,
you could teach me that probably.
We're
But, you know what I
definitely
mean?
on the same page. I think you have the other restriction of, you're capped on how much you can raise taxes every year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you get yourself in a position where you've exhausted your capital funds trying to balance your budget, and then you tax your way out of it, you can't, because you can only raise it to a certain level.
Right.
And then that, again,
Mhm.
maybe you offset some of it, but it's larger the next year and you can raise taxes to the max, but it will continue to snowball.
Right.
And you never want to raise taxes to the max because that hurts, that
It does,
hurts
yeah.
people, that hurts, but well, once you get past that $800,000 mark, you're in really bad trouble. The only place to cut is into people. And so here's the good thing overall. Here's what I'm proud of at Riverview. We have a really great capital reserve that's healthy. That's really great. We can take care of things. We can be proactive in keeping the infrastructure up. And we have an 8% contingency where we can take care of like major issues that occur without borrowing money. That is a really great place to be. Also at Riverview, in the last, at least since I've been the superintendent, and I think our operating costs and our revenue are balanced every year. Balance. That is a healthy financial position to be in. Now, with this extra money coming in, we can kind of discuss as a board, as an administrative team, where that goes. Certainly, if that project goes through, or you guys think that those upgrades to facilities is something that we're going to need to do for our future, this would certainly, pave the way to help us make some of those decisions, or make
And-
some of those decisions less burdensome to the district.
Less painful for the community.
And
Way less painful, way less.
not that this is what Riverview is trying to do, but I live in a district that's doing exactly that. They're taking I live in Quaker Valley, and they're building a $109 million school, which is crazy. However, they are taking their leftover money every year and they're putting it in their capital, and they're raising taxes every year. They have a plan in place to raise taxes until I'm dead in the ground to pay for a 30-year bond issue.
Yep.
Mhm.
So not that that's what we're doing, but I think for purposes of what we have on the horizon, this is not a bad thing. This is a good problem to have.
Yes, totally
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, it's awesome. We're in a great position. So that's a good thing. Obviously, you want to try to prognosticate interest in those kinds of things, and Sheila and I will continue to do that, but we're in an advantageous position.
Just before we flip to we're running out of time. On the CLR,
Mhm.
who determines the CLR? Is that the county or is that the state?
I believe it's the county, because this is our countywide.
Okay. I know there was talk of potentially doing a reassessment, which has to be
Yes.
revenue neutral.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's actual political appetite to go through with that. Is there a floor to the CLR, or can it go to 10% if nobody ever gets around to reassessing properties in Allegheny County?
Oh, I hope not.
That's a really good
I didn't know
question.
that answer.
How bad could it get is my
I could reach out to Jen Service and ask.
Because
She would-
it feels like there should be a floor, like it cannot go below 50%.
Yeah, we're there. Wow.
We're already at 50%.
Well, yeah, I know,
so,
but like, it just feels like it shouldn't be able to go absurdly low because it's so difficult
Yeah.
politically to get
A
a
reason.
reassessment done.
Well, I mean, we're due, they keep talking about those reassessments, Chris. They've been talking about for a little while, but you know, it's politicized.
It is, and that's the thing. like,
It's a
because it's so-
politicized concept, and you know, I
because
mean,
it's
we're
so
certainly due
polarized,
for a reassessment, right? It's been what, 2012, right? So
Yeah.
14 years.
It's on my documentation.
It's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a long, long time.
it's been a long time, and I think it helps when you reassess. It helps because then, yeah, you have it's closer. The money coming in is closer to the actual value that homes are
Well, and
worth.
it
I
helps
mean,
out that
think of how much
It's right
homes have gone
size.
up for in 14 years. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So yeah, obviously there's a misalignment, and that also helps kind of like neutralize millage, and you know that money goes back into like holding harmless. So it's
Yes.
it's a good thing to do. It's costly to assess, and it's political. Those are those are the two
Well,
issues.
that's why I think like it's drug on so long. Like when will it happen? If it will happen, and then how low does that CLR get?
That's a great question. I mean,
I know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It could be 30 years. I mean, I know I grew up in Lawrence County.
Yeah.
Lawrence County they just had a reassessment a few years ago. They hadn't had a reassessment since the 80s.
I don't know.
Butler County hasn't been reassessed.
Westmoreland has.
Westmoreland County hasn't been reassessed.
No.
I don't understand the fairness. You know, you've got people building houses and beautiful houses next to them that are assessed at a value based on 1989 values. And you've got individuals building, you know, $1 million home and
Yeah.
not paying
Yeah.
what their neighbor's paying.
Yep.
So, but I do want to
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
Mr.
there's an
Menard, about
equity,
the-
certainly an equity component to it. There's no doubt about it.
I want to thank you about the conversation that we did have in our previous meeting, which went into my finance document, my business manager's information that's on the website. I thought that would be.
Yeah, it's super helpful because I think people don't understand exactly how this stuff works. So,
So,
okay, sorry,
No.
do that a little bit.
great. So, that was the 24-25 audit update. And then this is our budget timeline. We will adopt the proposed final budget in May. We'll continue to refine budget data and strategies, and hopefully we can get an early bird state budget that we'll know exactly what's happening, but I doubt that. We have a deadline to make the proposed final budget available for public inspection. And then we have a deadline to offer public notice of the intent to adopt the final budget, which will go into the paper. And that's required 20 days prior to the adoption of the final budget, which is scheduled for June 8th.
Perfect.
Okay. And that,
So, Sheila, maybe I can send this I could send the slides to all the board members, and then,
let me fix the 2.23%.
yeah, fix that and then send it
Okay.
my way, and I'll send it out to everybody. And
Okay.
then, yeah, you all are gonna be responsible for giving the overview on Monday in the
Okay.
finance report. So if you need anything in addition to that to help you with that overview, just let us know. Sheila will, Sheila's great. She'll give you whatever you need. And
I can give you a one pager with the overages and the line items
That would be helpful.
like I did here.
And then I guess how detailed do we get in public?
it would,
I guess I'm hesitant to say, hey, guys, we have a positive overrun of $2.8 million from last year.
Better have the details of where it is, what it is, and what you plan to do with it, Chris, is the experience I've had.
Yeah, well, that's
You
why
open-
I
if
didn't
you-
necessarily want to say that.
Right, so be
Well,
careful what can of worms you open, because if you open it, there's gonna be an open door.
well, I mean, yeah, but everybody has access to this meeting too. So if they want really detailed information, I think, it's for you to sort of give an overview to your colleagues that are sitting there. So, whatever, Sheila can help you Sheila can help you do that. But yeah, it's just filling people in that aren't here. But anyone can, any community member can. I'm going to post this in a matter of minutes. They can go on and kind of hear all of these details as well. So I want people to be engaged in the financial process, because remember, when we do those annual budgets, there are people that want to know more, but then they don't, they don't typically sort of listen in or come to the budgets, and they have ideas of how we're appropriating funds and how the process works. So we're trying to educate people as much as we can. Sheila's done a good job of the business office updates. We've made a concerted effort to do that. We've provided like sort of short documents that are bite-sized and easy to digest for folks. So as you hear things, or as people give you information, if there's ideas that you have that we can get information out to the public better, we're open to those.
I did have one more follow-up question. That I was just kind of circling back like to some things we
Sure.
discussed like prior to this meeting about the cyber charter calculators that were to be updated. And I was just wondering, has anything been done with that? Because I like noticed in our like monthly expenditures that was a pretty high line item that was kind of
Yeah,
going
it
out.
always is.
So how has that calculator come along?
I started it and then I got pulled away to something else. I will make my way back to it. I apologize.
When does that become effective?
You can update it throughout the year.
Okay,
I was waiting for Justin to give me the final updates to the audit, and then I had to circle back to it.
okay.
And then have
Is that
we,
retroactive or is that just going?
Yeah, it'll be retroactive.
Okay.
It'll be retroactive.
and then have we received any residency confirmations from the cyber charter schools that we have students attending yet?
So the state is still working through the form that they're recommending we use. I'm getting
Yeah.
updates. I'm getting updates every so often. So it's funny how they put something in place. The state has a habit of putting something in place, whether it's an unfunded mandate or it's something they say, oh yes, we're gonna do this, but they don't have the documentation to back it up. So we're just kind of waiting on the state's recommended documentation procedures at this point.
Okay, because I know like in that updated policy that they're now required to do residency verification twice a year. And I think
Correct.
one of those times was last month. And then in terms of the calculator, like in the email I had sent out, we were like one of the lowest districts in terms of how much we are getting reimbursed from the state on. And so like for me personally, that calculator adjustments will be seem pretty important in terms of, improving our overall budget if, there's something that we could modify or improve or reassess, perhaps get another set of eyes on, just so that, we're doing the most for our taxpayers.
Absolutely. I will circle back to that.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
No.
So, yeah, we have our meeting on Monday, executive session on Monday as well.
Yep.
I'm gonna meet our person, Adeshua, that you were involved in, and should be good. If you have any questions between now and then, let us know. Sheila's gonna keep pulling the finance committee together, certainly a little bit more now that budget season is starting, to give you more frequent updates.
Neil, this
Right.
meeting's gonna end.
It's
So,
okay. It'll still record as long as we're
I
here.
just wanted to make sure it said
But
5
yeah.
minutes.
This is we're in the sweet spot for the finance committee, as you can imagine. We're kind of the spring is a busy time. So Sheila will keep you informed. And if you need anything at all, please reach out so that we can give you what you need. Or I know we appreciate you all being a part of the process. So
Perfect.
We have board members, no other citizens, so I don't have a hearing of citizens. Our next meeting is 5/6/26, prior to the proposed budget approval. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion?
Yes.
now 5/6/26
Second.
is our next public meeting, yeah?
Yeah,
Meeting for the public,
Yep.
okay. But this group will meet, over the course of the next couple months as well.
Yes.
Just to sit in and have touch points, okay?
no, May 6th is a Wednesday. It's our next finance meeting.
Right,
That's
that's
nice.
our next public meeting, but we
Okay,
have two public
Okay.
finance meetings like this that we record and send it out to the public. But we will have touch points between now and then, just to keep the three of you abreast of the process, okay?
thank you everyone for coming.
Appreciate you guys, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.